Annapolis. How's everybody doing today? Good. It's a little bit after 8 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. We have a wonderful presentation by the Miss Laura Buckley today. We're going to talk about different personalities and how you guys are all crazy. What's up, man?
Hang out with you.
That's right.
I thought we were going to learn something.
I know, right? I knew that. And she's going to be presenting.
Oh, I'm just going to clap.
Today we're going to talk about the platinum rule. A lot of you guys have heard about the golden rule. Treat others the way that you would like to be treated. Today we're going to talk about the platinum rule. Treat others the way that they would like to be treated. You see there's 4 types of personalities on this worksheet, and many of us are a mixture of 1 or 2. So what we need to do as a salesperson, when we recognize somebody else's personality, we need to tune in to them and treat them the way that they would like to be treated. Without any further ado, professional coach, Miss Laura Buckley.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You guys ready to talk about DISC? All right, who here has already seen my talk? I've done it 3 weeks in a row. All right, woohoo! So repetition. Yeah, so I actually think that's like the best news, because once you've heard it once, the second time it's like, oh yeah, remember that thing she said? Or oh yeah, that's how that showed up. So it's actually a really good thing if you've already heard it once. How many of you have taken a DISC assessment? Like, who's actually taken the assessment? Yeah? Okay, good. Now, if you have that assessment, I'm going to encourage you to go get it back out. These assessments are the type of thing where it's so easy to take it, look at it, think, yeah, that was interesting, and then forget all about it. But those assessments can be gold for you. There's so much to learn inside of that. So if you have one that you haven't looked at in a while, I would highly encourage you to just go get it out, take a look, be reminded, think about what you might take away from it this time that you look at it. Because I truly believe that personality work is one of the most beneficial things that we can look at, learn from, and really sort of investigate ourselves through. So let's talk about sort of some personality work in general. One thing that I like to remind people of is that when we look at personalities, the first and foremost thing we have to understand is who we are. They're a self-awareness tool. They're that ability to, when we look at emotional intelligence, one of the first cornerstones is self-awareness. Who am I? What do I like? How do I show up? What am I all about? Because once you know where you're starting from and you can build that solid platform of who am I, it's much easier to be able to flex to other people, to recognize differences from ourselves and others, and then make that choice to behave in a way that's going to resonate with them, instead of hoping they'll come behave in a way that resonates with us. We really have to know who we are first. The other thing that is important to remember is that we are all a mix of the different styles. So no matter what personality assessment you do, whether it's StrengthsFinders or DISC or Myers-Briggs or the Enneagram, we are all a blend. So if you feel like you fit best into one category, remember that you still do the other things. It's not to say if you're a people person, you can't ever work on an Excel spreadsheet, right? Like, we can all do this. We are a blend. Although some of us kind of feel like we really can't. Self-included. But we're able to function in all of these different categories. We just tend to have one that feels most like us. So it's important to kind of honor that in yourself and figure out where you start, because then we can see what's going on with other people and we can be flexible in a way that both people benefit most from a conversation or from the relationship. So if you've heard this before, you know that I think relationships are one of probably the most important things in our lives. Are the other people. We do our work with and through other people, and the stronger we can make those relationships, the better we all are for it. So I put a lot of emphasis in my coaching, in my work, in my workshops, around how we interact with other people, because it is such an important aspect of the human condition. We are built for connection. And so personality work helps us build those connections. All right, so DISC is one type of personality assessment. I love it because I think DISC is one that's pretty quick to grasp. It's one of the things we can see fairly quickly, and we can kind of get into what does it mean for us. So DISC is 4 quadrants, and it is based on a couple different sets of characteristics, and we're going to talk about what those are so we can kind of quickly get into where you might fall. Okay, so with DISC, and you have your handout, so you have some overview here, but the first kind of characteristics we look at is, are you more of a fast-paced person, like kind of really action-oriented, go do it, or are you a little bit more moderate paced, take some time, reflect before you take action? Does that make sense? So most of us have a tendency to either be like more fast-paced, action, assertive, bold, or maybe a little bit more moderate paced, a little bit more reserved, a little bit more reflective. So who here falls on that more fast-paced side? Yeah? Okay, so what does that look like? What does fast-paced look like in action? Like, how am I going to know you're fast-paced?
You do different projects.
Different projects. Like, we got more than one thing going at once. What else?
I'm always late.
Always late. Right? Because you can always do one more thing, right? Like, yeah. What else?
Always early.
Always early.
Speed of speech and intonation and body language.
Yeah, we speak fast. You're more of a risk taker.
Get excited.
Get excited, right? Like, now we totally get excited. All right, so that's what kind of the fast pace look like. See it in yourself, look for it in other people, right? How is it showing up? So who in here is more on that moderate paced side of things? Okay, great. So what does that look like? And a little bit more analytical, a little bit more focused.
Just like to make sure everything's right.
Like to make sure everything's right. Like let me make sure it's right before I move.
Always early.
Always early.
Always.
Yeah. So it's also sort of that more, and we can also see it in body language, in tone. Like we saw it even in how this showed up. Like when I was like, who's the fast pace? It's like boom, boom, boom. When we ask about the more moderate pace, it is a more thoughtful response, right? It is a little bit slower to speech because we're reflecting and we're thinking before we move forward. So I want to encourage you to notice that in people when you're when you're communicating with them, is how kind of quick are they to that. It's a good indicator of that fast paced versus moderate paced. So then, one thing I forgot to say, and I am going to back up, is it's really important that we have a mix of all of these characteristics in our lives. Like, I think it's super important to hang around with people who have different strengths and different styles from us, because it allows us to stay in our area of strength when we're surrounded by people who might like other things from us. So if I'm really fast paced, I benefit from being around someone who's a little bit more moderate paced and brings that more thoughtful, reflective things to a team or to a partnership or to a conversation.
They're limited quantities though. Act now while supplies last.
All right, so the other continuum we look at is, are you more task focused or are you more people focused? So do you get energized by looking at the task first and then we move out and go see the people, or do you prefer to surround yourself with people to motivate you to go do your tasks? Does that make sense? All right, so who are my people? All right, a lot, not surprising in a room full of networkers, there were a lot of people. But what does that look like? Tell me how that shows up for you.
A lot of network meetings.
A lot of networking. What's the value of networking for you?
Building those relationships.
Yeah, because it's energizing, right? It's one of the things that kind of builds us up to go out and do the work. Yeah. What else? Conversation starter, right? Like to pick up conversations with people, like to get to know people, like to go sometimes on that personal side of things and get to know you as a person as well as a business person.
So that's positive reinforcement of you as a person.
Yeah, it feels like positive reinforcement as a person. Yeah, great.
You're not shy.
Yeah, not shy. Great. And so who? Oh, you want to add
I was
something?
just going to say, person to person, you have the possibility of changing so many other people's lives by building these buildings.
Yeah, so building a bigger, you feel like you can have a bigger impact by those person-to-person connections. Great. And who are my my more task-focused people in the room? I feel like you're really good at that analytical task-focused side of things. All right, so tell me a little bit about how that shows up for you.
There's lists.
Lists.
Lots of lists.
Right. Yes, I love that the two organization experts are both on that, you know, like list and task, yeah. Great. So
Make lists and then don't follow them.
you make lists and then don't follow. Looks like a true eye. All right.
I'll add that my task management is in service of my love language, which is quality time.
Quality
So I
time.
feel like I'm right on that,
Yeah.
that line.
Great. Great. So just notice where you are. Like I said, that self-awareness piece is so important because when we can recognize what we are, then we can recognize what's also going on with other people. All right, so let's get into what this all then plays out to be. So when we look at the DISC quadrants, the people who fall into the fast-paced and more task-oriented focus, we call our dominant. So this is the DISC that's, this is the disc based on the Wiley publisher, so this is their disc names. You'll see different names and words for the different quadrants, but this is the Wiley one. So they call the D's the dominant. So these are our more fast-paced, task-focused friends, right? They really focus on getting things done. They're oriented toward action. They focus on results. They're risk takers. They like to promote change, and they like to promote change for overcoming obstacles and challenges. Okay, that is what motivates our dominant friends. Okay, does that sound about right for some of you who said you're fast-paced and more on that task side? Yeah, like priority is getting things done. Okay, so who are my dominants? Yeah? Okay, great. I love dominants are always like, yeah, me. It's me, for sure. No, I love it. All right, great. So now let's talk about our friends who are a little bit more fast-paced and people-focused. Where are you all? All right, so this is what we call the influencer. So our influencers, again, they're fast-paced, they like people, we tend to like to promote change, but we like to promote change by getting other people on board, getting other people excited. We like
Excuse me.
we like to collaborate. We like to be with other people. We tend to focus on generating enthusiasm and getting other people excited with us. That's what like really gets us excited. So our influencers tend to prioritize having fun while we're doing our work. We like to have fun and we like to do it with other people. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So now let's talk about the people who are a little bit more moderate paced and task focused. Was that anybody who's our moderate paced, task focused? Okay, so perfect. So in DISC world, we call that our conscientious. Okay, our conscientious friends are the people who tend to be more moderately paced. They're a high focus on getting things done right the first time. So they're very detail-oriented, very analytical. They tend to be very good at looking at history and remembering the facts and figures and details of what has happened in the past to inform how we're going to move forward. They like to know the analytical details of things. So when we're talking with our conscientious friends, it's important to have a little bit more of that linear approach, having the processes and having sort of the details in place. John, do you have it?
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a question. It reminds me of purchasing products.
Okay.
So if if somebody say purchased a digital camera, you know the dominant or the influencer, they're just going to run out and grab the best, what they perceive as the best. Where I remember a lot of my steadiness friends and my conscientious friends, they would like research laboriously over every little detail.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would go ask them what camera to buy. You know what I mean? Because I knew that they would be the ones that did all that research.
Well, and that's when we talk about surrounding ourselves with people who have different preferences. That is exactly one of those life examples of when it's so powerful to be like, you know what? I know it's your strength to go out and do the research. You like it. You're motivated by that. Why am I going to spend my energy when I'm not that good at it? I'm going to lose the details anyway. Go ask that other person. And it's we all benefit from that, right? We're putting value on somebody else's strengths to support our own way of being as well.
Another example, I'm an influencer, which means I like people, I get things done,
Yeah.
but I'm not as organized as I should be.
Right.
So for my big project, Laura's working with me.
Yeah.
Because she's that opposite personality.
Bringing the opposite to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah, the best teams are made up of all of these styles so that all of the strength areas are covered by somebody's natural abilities instead of us trying to force ourselves to do something that we're not as good at or don't enjoy as much anyway. Right? All right, so then let's talk about our steadiness friends. So these are the people who are people focused, but take a little bit of a more moderate pace. Was that anybody in this room who said people but more moderate pace? Okay, great. So these are people who are really strong on building connections with people. They value harmony and they value giving support. So they're very good at supporting other people with their challenges, with the work that they have to do, and really helping build up other people. They tend to be pretty focused. They like keeping things sort of as they are because they know how to support people and how to be successful inside of those consistent systems. So they also tend to be very good at monitoring the morale on a team, promoting team building. They're kind of that bridge between all the other team members. They really help build those bonds and build that connection. Make sense? Yeah, so can everybody see themselves in like one or maybe two of those different categories? That would be completely normal, is to sort of see yourself maybe solidly in one or more in one or two at the same time. So once you know where you are, we can start to look for differences in other people. I'm going to tell you, one of the most powerful things you can do in your life, I truly believe, is to look at a relationship and ask yourself, if it's not exactly what you want it to be, what could I be doing different? And DISC is a tool for doing that. So if I show up and I am like over the top enthusiastic because that is my go-to, and I'm with somebody who's maybe a little bit more calm, a little bit less expressive, I could try to get them fired up. I could try to force them to come be excited with me. Or I can choose to monitor my energy and act in a way that's going to feel more comfortable and connecting for them. Okay, so if you tend to be, if you're working with someone who's a D or a dominant and you see that energy, then maybe we try to speed up a little. Even if our go-to is a little bit more moderate pace and detail focused, our dominant friends, they kind of want to know the bottom line. So if you're trying to sell to someone who's a dominant or build a partnership with someone who has that dominant preference, you're probably going to be most successful if you can pick up your pace a little bit, if you can start with the bottom line, if you can start with the end focus so that you can then build that connection with them, right? They want to see how they're going to get more power, more money, more resources. Like, they want you to lead with that. Okay? If you are working with somebody who is an influencer and they tend to seem very friendly and energetic and you can see that, people-focused side, then again, we want to speed up a little bit. You want to, again, start with that bottom line. Don't go into a lot of details. Your influencer friends don't want to know the details and the analytics, right? They want to know how things are going to be kept more novel, more fun. How is this interesting? How do we connect with other people? How do we get a little bit more visibility? Right? That's what our influencers are really going to be more motivated by. Make sense? All right. So if you are working with someone who has that preference for conscientious or for our C's, then you need to slow it down a little bit. I just mean take a more moderate pace, a little bit less of the energy thrown at them. Hang on one second. So bringing that more sort of calm and collected is probably how I would say it, to the table, because that's how you're going to build trust. That's how you're going to build their confidence in you and your ability to support them. I'm an I, like all up here, and I married a C. And I had to learn, I know, right? Sometimes I feel like I deserve an award for that. I'm just kidding. I had to learn that if I want to influence him, or if I want him to be excited about something I'm excited about, I actually have to bring my excitement down. I have to meet him where he is so that he can get that buy-in and that confidence to then feel excited.
And create a business plan.
And create,
Like
right,
literally.
like a plan, like for real, a plan and a process, right? Because that's how you're going to influence. You're going to have that plan. You're going to have the analytics that look like you did your research ahead of time, and you know what's backing up the idea that you have in the direction that you're looking to go. John, what did you want to add?
Before I knew this, I remember trying to be a good salesperson. I would be excited, animated, and then the conscientious person would be sitting there like real quiet, listening, just staring at me. And to me, it was like a blank stare. So instead of turning it down, what I would do is I would amp it up, which is the opposite of what I should have been doing.
It's like when speaking to somebody who's hard of hearing, you think if you yell,
If you yell.
like well, yeah, they're not getting it. All you're doing is scaring them away. And you may be thinking, oh yeah, they're on the same page, they're listening.
Yeah.
But the last thing they hear is you, because they're like, this is not what I like.
Yeah.
Right. It feels very, it's like almost offensive. It's like pushing people away when you think you're trying to drive them. So, yeah.
I was just thinking of a client that I had yesterday.
Yeah.
And I came home, I got in my car and I'm like, didn't feel the way I wanted it to feel.
Yeah.
But, so I realized very quickly into the meeting that this is a person who just was very time conscientious, just wanted to know the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, bottom line first and get it here. I don't know which seat up front, so are there any cues?
Yeah.
You know, when you got a warm referral
Yeah,
to
so
a small
here's-
business and you're talking with the owner, and I want to, you know.
Yeah. Here's one of the
Make the
things that I'm
relationship.
going to suggest. When you first meet with someone, if you're not sure and you don't have a lot of information about them or you don't know them as a person so much yet, just say, tell me about yourself. You just really open up the door and you say, tell me about yourself, and you see where they focus. You know, if they kind of leave with that like kind of fast paced, not a lot of details, then they're probably more of a D. If they tell you something more personal or they tell you something more enthusiastic, they're probably more of an I. If they tell you a little bit more of a linear approach to how they got there, they're probably a C.
Yeah.
So just look for those types of things. Like if their answer, and if they have like sort of calmly collected, then they're probably a C or an S. You know, if they come in with you.
that one more time because I missed that the last. I was trying to.
Yeah. Right. So if you say to somebody, tell me about yourself. First, pay attention to how long it takes before they start talking. If they dive right in, they're probably a D or an I. If they sit back a little bit and they take a breath, one, give them their moment. So many of us are like, you didn't like my question, let me ask you something else instead. Give them a moment. They're probably a C or an S. They're just wanting to give, a thoughtful answer. So pay attention to that. And then, pay attention to, do they focus on something that's more personal? Like, do they tell you a little bit about their family? Do they tell you a little bit about, something fun or something that's more personal? That's probably an I or an S. And if they get right into work stuff, then they're probably a D or a C. Okay, so pay attention. If they're like fast and very work-oriented, it's probably a D. If they're fast, maybe a little bit more personal focused and a little bit more personal information, they're probably an I. Pay attention to their body language. I's and D's tend to use more of the body language. C's and S's tend to be a little bit more reserved. So it's just a matter of really paying attention to both the verbal, the words and the tone, and the body language can give you a lot of cues.
What I like to use, I think that's 100%.
Speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry. What I like to say is, the question I like to start off with is, instead of just another option, instead of tell me about yourself, because if I'm dealing with I forget what you guys do, conscientious, they might, why do you want to know about me? Like, what are you talking about? Who are you? But maybe if it's a Monday or Tuesday, hey, how was your weekend? What did you do? Because the conscientious is going to be like, nothing, I did whatever. And the influence is going to be like Cheryl, I did this, I did that. But right there and then with a simple question of tell me about what you did this week. What do you have planned for this coming weekend?
Yeah.
If they go into a dissertation, you know who you're dealing with. If they're like nothing, well, you better tone down if you're the influencer because they're not chatting. So maybe just another way to, instead of too personal, talk about something rather than a yes or no. Definitely you don't want to close that question.
Yeah. Politely told me I talk so much.
Oh yeah, I can.
20% asking questions, 80% answering. Them answering.
Them answering it, all the information you need. All right, so let's just go back. So I want to make sure we don't leave out our as friends. So if you're working with someone who has more of that preference for steadiness, again, you just want to bring a more moderate pace. You want to lean back, but not in like lean forward, like show interest in that person as a person. You want to get to know them, like ask them a little bit about their family, a little bit about their pets, whatever you know about them as a person, spend a little bit of time there. That's how you're going to build the relationship. That's how you're going to gain their trust if you want to continue building that relationship.
A lot of my clients end up being us.
Yeah, I bet they do. And they love you because you're there to support, right? In a way that's like not super over the top.
Get them towards the Z or the I, a little more structure. And
Yeah. Good. Yeah, so pay attention to that because the S's want to feel supported. You know, they want to feel like we're building connection as we're working together. So we do, if that's not your go-to, it might just take a little bit of a reminder to be like, oh yeah, let me go there. So we did this exercise last time and we're gonna do it again. Because with personality work, it takes practice, right? Like you can know all of this stuff, but implementing it's a whole nother ballgame, right? You have to tend to make the thought process of, yes, I want to do this change, and then you have to practice. So, I'm going to ask you to put your hands together in a clasp. Yeah? Everybody there? Okay. Now I want you to unclasp your hands and put the opposite hand on top. So switch your grip. So tell me, how did it feel to switch your grip? Awful, uncomfortable, weird, awkward.
Made me think
You had to think a little bit, right? You just have to think a little bit like, oh, I want to do something a little bit differently. Let me think about what it is and let me do it. But for many of us, the more we do something that's outside of our comfort zone, the less outside of our comfort zone it becomes.